just, I don't know, just seeing the faith like just radiate. Like it was heaven on earth. That's the best way to describe it. And then in adoration, just there was no direct light on the monstrance, yet Jesus was radiating. Like there was this immense glow.
So welcome to episode 2 of Lenten Conversations. Today we have Abby Robinson here with us to talk about the youth. I am not a youth, but I do get to work with them as the Director of Youth Ministry. I'm Marianne Schmidt. And so I get the joy of working with the youth a lot and seeing them grow in relationship with Christ and just like seeing the way that they encounter the Lord in all the teenagery ways. So thanks, Abby, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
We're so excited. So I guess, just start off by giving us a little introduction of yourself. Where are you from? What parish? And then, go ahead with your first encounter with Christ. Kind of where did you first encounter him?
Yeah. So, hey y'all. I'm Abby Robinson. I'm from East Central, and I'm a senior. I'm kind of a church hopper. I hop around from Our Lady of Victories in Pascagoula to St. Thomas in Long Beach, and occasionally St. Anne's in Hurley, where I'm from. My faith is definitely developed in a bunch of different encounters, but it first began was at Teen Acts when I attended it the summer after my freshman year. Teen Acts is a weekend retreat that you go off normally to a little summer camp, and you get encounters with Christ based off of being on a lake and seeing just God move. God really moved in the community there, and it brought me my first faith community, and it's kind of just blossomed since.
That's awesome. Was there maybe one experience or moment at Teen Acts that really you pinpointed as oh, that's it?
Yes. So at Adoration at Teen Acts, we walked to it blindfolded, but when they took off our blindfolds, there was this beautiful sunset over the lake, and I was like, hey, Jesus, because I love seeing God in the skies. And then walking into Adoration, and the room was filled with a bunch of the team members we hadn't seen in a while, and then just the joy in that room with the live music playing. It was really just it brought it back, and was how true God is really there, and God is in each and every one of us, especially the teens, because the first time I really saw faith in action.
That's awesome. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
And that's so I just think things like that, where you kind of start this community and you get this community of people your own age, but then also, like you said, the leaders that kind of you get to experience faith and what that could look like as you grow up, and as you mature, is just a beautiful witness that we as adults get to be with teens, but then also that y'all get, the opportunity to cultivate that community. What other things are you involved in the diocese?
So I'm an active member of St. Anne's and Hurley's St. Vincent de Paul, serving on Wednesdays and helping with the needy, provide food and supplying for them. I'm occasionally a children's church teacher at St. Anne's for it's from first grade and below, and just engaging in fun activities. In the diocese, I'm a spirit mover, and I have been one since the 10th grade, and that's just such an amazing experience, seeing so many teens from across the coast gather and put on this amazing conference, DBYC. I'm also a 2024 and 2025 Search Retreat team member, and that was just the most amazing retreat team. Then I served on the Girls Retreat leadership team of this past year, and I was also a Teen Acts retreat team member 3 years ago, serving right after I had made it.
That's awesome. So you kind of cover a lot of different things that not only our diocese offers, but that a lot of different parishes offer. And I think from an outsider looking in on a teen's perspective, right, there's so many different things that you could be doing. There's so many other things you could give your time to. And I know you do, at school, you're very dedicated when y'all do have class. And just kidding. But not really. They never have class, it feels like. But you are just devoted in all of these different ways. And I just think what gives you hope as a teenager, knowing what you know about the world and knowing everything that's going on, you still show up and what gives you hope in all of that?
I've been at like struggling places, but then like reflecting back like a few years, I've seen how these struggling places have like ultimately in return flipped to bring me to my strongest communities. We've grown together, whether it's finding like my sisterhood in the group of girls at the National Eucharistic Congress that has formed the closest friend group, or spirit movers, or just getting me plugged in. It gives me hope seeing that there are teens that actively participate and that share the same belief as you, because like from my small town there's not a lot of Catholics, so like reaching out to branch out to retreat teams and see other people that have done the same and just building the faith together. I guess just seeing so many active ones truly giving back, and then also the adults that just keep coming back and keep providing us with fruitful relationships and just devoting their time. It shows that like they truly care about us, and that the faith goes somewhere when you leave your teenage. Like it continues to develop and grow, and that there are people that are there to see you grow and to be there and to walk with you in that journey.
Absolutely. You just briefly mentioned it, and I think maybe just selfishly I'd love to hear more about it, because it was one of my favorite experiences, and it was such a beautiful thing to experience it through y'all's eyes. We went to the National Eucharistic Congress this past summer, and I got to take 4 high school girls, and it was such a blast to see them witness. So just talk a little bit more about, I think that was such a place for hope.
Yes.
And gathering 60,000 people together that all believe in the universal truth of the church, like the, soul and divinity of Jesus Christ in the Eucharist. So just talk a little bit more about your experience there and the hope that you received.
When I went to the Eucharistic Congress, it was like a rapid fire trip right from Steubenville. We had maybe one night at home, and then next thing you know, we were back on that bus again. But it was just the joy that was on this bus, because it was the anticipation. You've kept hearing about this once in a lifetime opportunity. You heard about like the last time the speakers were Mother Teresa and Pope John Paul II, and you're like, wild. I'm going to some place that like the speakers here could be the next future saints. I mean, it was just crazy.
Mother Olga
will
be a saint.
1,000%. And the fact that like Father Mike Schmidt talked right after her, I was like, okay, is this like a back-to-back thing? Like, what is this going on? But the excitement on this bus ride would just continue to like radiate, because you didn't really know what you were going to. Well, when we got there was like, considering the check-in line, the check-in times were like all day, but when we got there, like a 2.5-hour check-in line when they offered them all day. At first you're like, I don't want to wait this long, but then it's like seeing so many people there. It was like this 2-mile radius was filled with, I didn't even know that many people existed, to be honest. One thing about everybody there though is they all had a smile. They all became your closest friends, from meeting friends in the elevator to meeting on your walking to when you're fighting in lines for food. There were always people ready to talk and ready to share, from all ages, from like the infants to the adults, and just, I don't know, just seeing the faith like just radiate. Like it was heaven on earth. That's the best way to describe it. And then in adoration, just there was no direct light on the monstrance, yet Jesus was radiating. Like there was this immense glow, and like how real is God? Like it was incredible. And then for my own, I came in with some medical issues, struggling with just stuff that doctors didn't know where to pinpoint. And one of the days the topic was healing, and my grandma's prayer, she like sent a prayer request along with the bazillion other ones that were sent up there, but it happened to be my prayer request that was prayed for on stage in front of thousands of people. And it was
being live streamed
like on stage. And I wasn't in the direct room that the prayer was being prayed over, but when I heard about it, I glanced at like my legs, because I have been having like some autonomic whatever disorder, and like the swelling I had was like gone. My grandma kept telling me, she was like, you're gonna go here and you're just gonna be healed from everything, just casually. And I'm like, whatever. She kept saying it, and then sure enough, God does it. God does miracles, and that was a living miracle that whole entire trip.
That's beautiful. It's like so much hope, leaving that as well, and going forth from that,
yes.
To just be able to take everything that we experienced. I know for me, one of my favorite things was that first night adoration, and there's like a spotlight going everywhere, and then they're bringing Jesus in on this massive, beautiful monstrance, and then all at once, all the lights go,
Yes.
and you're like,
yes.
oh my gosh, that's Jesus.
Yes.
And you could hear like a pin drop, like there were probably thousands of babies, like little children there, and it still felt like adoration was the quietest thing in the world.
Right.
Even though you could hear them, and even with 60,000 people, you were so locked in. It was like, it is just me and Jesus in this room right now. Like, how beautiful is that?
Yes.
That I just think that's an experience like you that I will carry with me, and that I often think back to when I start getting discouraged or things like that I think, oh, no, like there is hope. The church is alive, and even the people that we got to meet, you know. Is there ever a time, like you've had a lot of these different encounters, which I think many of us do in our life, right? We have like these encounters, and then life could be going well or not so well, and then we have a different encounter. Like what has your experience been with kind of losing hope after Teen Acts? Was there ever a time that you drifted away or didn't understand, and then you kind of came back to that next encounter?
Oh, 1,000%. So for me, I definitely struggle with the post-retreat, like, quote-unquote depression, to where, like, you'll have this spiritual high and you'll be doing everything right, and then you'll just kind of, like, slack off. And then for me, junior year was really stressful with, like, I had a lot of difficult school classes. I was busy. I was tied in. I had a problem with saying no to things, so I was tied into too many different things, and I was overcommitted, and it was like living through, trying to get through the next day and struggling with that. And in that moment, yes, even though I was continuing to do the faith thing, I kind of like lost the meaning behind it. But in those times, typically I have one of my closest friends, or I have this I'll get a random text from my grandma or something that'll just bring it all back, and it'll be, I mean, it might be like talking about like a memory you've talked about, or just some little joy that'll bring it all back. I'm like, okay, I'm far, let me dive back in, because definitely it does happen. It's a lot easier than you would think, but
right. Shout out to grandmas, always bringing us back.
Yes, little joys.
Call your grandmother if you haven't.
Yes, love my grandma, both of them.
Love it. I just think having those people around you, grandmothers or not, friends that really kind of can pull you out of that or call you to higher is such an important thing, especially as a teenager. When I think of hope, weirdly, I also just think of suffering, right? Yes, they're interchangeable. Right. And as someone who's gone through some suffering with like your medical stuff and even, like the different friendships, things like that, it kind of moves us into the season we're in right now of Lent, right? That we just sit with Jesus in his suffering, knowing that there's hope in the resurrection and there's hope on the other end. So what does Lent look like for you as you've grown and as you've had that first encounter? How has your Lent changed throughout the years?
So I used to just think about Lent as like the basic, okay, no meat on Friday, but yay, seafood, because I love seafood. So I was like, okay, Jesus, I'll do that for you any day. And it used to be like I would give up something, but there was just, I feel like when you give up something, you should also do something. So, and I would miss the purpose of, I would just sacrifice something, but I would not do anything in return. But over time, I've noticed I've used Lent as a way to bring me back in, to rein me back in my faith when I've like slipped away. It's okay, this is the 40 days to get me back on track, to get me more in my routine. So like I might give up like sweets or something, but now I'm gonna reflect on the sweets of my day and like say how I'm grateful for that.
Love that.
And I'm gonna like do something in return, because it's about you give up and then you give, because what are you giving to Jesus? And in this time, I feel like it's really just a preparation and like a renewal of preparing your heart, because I mean, he's the way.
So true. So like as a high school student, when you've got, and especially as a senior, right? You've got all of these things you're preparing for, and you're trying to, one, fight like the senioritis of just calling it quits and being done with everything that is not for college, you're just looking forward. But then also two, of just all the things that are coming at you as a high schooler, how what's one thing that you've always kind of seen be fruitful for your Lent that you can just kind of dive into as a high schooler?
I've always tried to like remain like focused and present in the moment. So like, yes, you're looking forward to everything, and yes, seasons are like fading away, but just to enjoy like where you're at in that moment. So like calling back to mind like the nature things, the little beauties of nature, or like fostering those friendships that you have and those relationships with your family members, just like joining them together again and just spending extra time with them. And because I mean we're gonna be distant from them like next year, like with college, and so going along and trying to plan more family activities and activities to get people more involved, to really just cherish every moment together with them.
Just taking where you are and just trying to be the most present. I love that. Do you have something that you've done during Lent in all of your years that has like maybe been the most fruitful or the hardest? Like one year I gave up texting, which in high school, wild. And it was so hard, and I literally had to excuse myself from class like a real corporate businesswoman to make a phone call because I gave up texting, and I was supposed to babysit after school. So I had to call her and be like, I'll be a little bit late. But do you have something that's just like a fun thing you gave up, or like something that was more challenging than you had originally thought?
Yeah, so last year I gave up 2 things. So I gave up Instagram, which was just like I spent hours scrolling on it. And then I also gave up caffeinated coffees besides on Sundays. And for me, I'm a coffee addict. I drink like 5 a day. But
for the viewers, that's a big deal for Abby. She drinks a ton of coffee, but if it's iced, she has a rule, it does not count.
It does not count.
I don't know what that means, but it doesn't count.
Because you don't I feel like you don't taste the caffeine as much.
You definitely do taste the caffeine.
Caffeine doesn't really affect me, but it was last year, I think, so some people said. And so I was like, no, it's going to be my goal for next year. But I like kept pushing it. And I was like, you know what? Might as well just make it my goal for this year. But no, it was definitely tricky because it's like I feel like my life is centered around when it's coffee time. And so it did kind of help me call to mind just the things that I was idolizing, quote unquote, and not focusing too much of my time on, and help me to like rein back in. And then like giving up social media, that was all that extra time that I had to figure out what to do with. And so that helped me to get back on track with like trying out reading, because I don't read, and so trying out like reading some spiritual books or reading random things or listening to different podcasts. It definitely like challenged me in a new way because I had to fill that time, and it wasn't wasted scrolling. When
you take away all that noise, like the noise of Instagram, or even like the hustle and bustle of just getting caught up in so many things, when you strip that noise away, it can be very reflective.
Very much so, very much so. Sitting in silence can be a crazy thing, but it's very helpful.
For sure.
It's very good for growth.
I love it. So we talked a lot about everything, really. Hope, Lent. Something, though, that I just keep thinking that you've always said consistently is that you're never doing it alone, really. You have all these people surrounding you. So when you think of like being on mission, when you think of like being a missionary disciple, what does that look like to you?
To me, it's using your gifts and talents and collaborating with others and helping them find and discover their gifts and talents, and then working together to use these gifts to in return help other people, to help reach and meet people for where they're at. So if, for instance, I'm pretty good at initiating conversation with someone. And so, but then my friend is really good with like praying over them and doing the little behind the scenes little prayer life. So it's taking our 2 gifts and going to these people that have nothing, or that are down, or just confused, or it could just be everyday people, and using our gifts and just building them up and reaching out to them, seeing where we can help them, and really just encouraging them in their next steps, encouraging them, letting them know about there's hope, letting them know where to find hope, letting them know that we're there for them and that we'll walk with them and we'll always be there caring with them for each step. So it's using your gifts with their gifts and selflessly giving to others.
Yeah, and you really do have such a gift to just make anyone and everyone feel welcome. Like you will talk to a stranger, or at search, I remember being like, oh, this person's single, and you're like, oh, okay. And you just are like, okay, come with us type of stuff. And I think that's just so much shaped. That is so much shaped who you are and who Christ has made you to be, and like your identity. But how did you come to know that? Because it's a big deal for a high schooler to know, like, this is the gift God has given me. And I do think it takes time. And so what would you say, like, how did you come to know that?
So I used to be the exact like opposite as I am now. Like, I was pretty reserved in school. I mean, I would talk if you like knew me, and I mean, I wasn't the quiet kid, but I really only communicated with like my close friends. But when that school relationships, when they weren't like fulfilling and weren't being fruitful for what I needed, and I knew like I needed something else. And so it was really just a leap of faith, like reaching out with encouragement from like my parents, because I didn't really have anyone else at the time, because I didn't have like a community yet. And once I like took that first leap and first like got that friends, I saw like the beauty of where it could be, and I kind of just was like carefree at that point and was like, you know what, why not, what does it hurt? And then like being carefree and just walking with a smile and just walking with confidence, even if you may be struggling, just like embracing the confidence and just branching out. It brings you, I think a smile can bring so many different friendships. Just a simple, hey, good morning, it can bring about your closest friends. And so just like the carefree nature, I guess,
just authentically being who you are. You know, not trying to, which once again I think is so great, because not even just high schoolers, right? I think we all feel this of just like, oh, what are people going to think about me? What are they going to say about me? But especially I feel like as a high schooler, just witnessing it when you have all the noise of all of these people around you, then to just kind of quiet and be like, this is just who I am.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Where do you think, like, how do you think you've gotten to just become carefree? It's like a moment in prayer, or just like I'm tired of being this way?
Yeah, it was definitely like reflection, and I'm tired of being this way, and then like taking that sense of confidence and the sense of authenticity that's been brought out in those fruitful friendships, and just carrying it everywhere. And whoever like comes your way, knowing that seasonal friendships come, and your encounters are with who you're supposed to encounter, and just trusting in that, and just being the light no matter where you go.
I love that, being the light no matter where you go. Truly, like just knowing that Jesus is within you and carrying that with you every single day. Okay, so kind of wrapping it all up, what would you say is, what kind of challenge or maybe advice or things like that would you give to someone, we'll say specifically a high schooler right now, who has encountered Christ and is kind of like, what now? Like, how do I, not go into the retreat depression, or how do I not lose hope? Like, what am I supposed to do now? How do I keep that hope alive?
So first thing is, I would try to learn the type of prayer that speaks to you best, because sometimes sit down prayer is really helpful, but sometimes it can be distracting. So like finding that, whether you find, for me, praying through music in the nature is like where I see God the most. And so finding that place of prayer, and or place that you can just sit with God and really try to make more effort to spend more time in it. And then honestly, it can be scary, but taking that leap of faith to join your youth group, or to come back to that youth group, or to figure out where there's always a place that you can get involved, and there's always a place you can get your foot in, whether it's taking a big leap or just a small one, and just talking with your youth minister or your friends and your friends' parents, whoever you have that's kind of plugged into the church, and just kind of figure out ways that you can get involved with the youth. And yes, it's scary, but like the scariness is all the more fruitful, because faith takes that leap of courage. But when you take it, then the beauties are endless. So
amen.
Yeah.
Look at that. Look at that. Well, thank you so much for being here, Abby. We are so excited for your next chapter, even though you have chosen to go to Mississippi State. It's okay. It's okay. But we are praying for you, and I just hope that you can continue to carry on this light that you have throughout college. And I know that you'll be just as impactful up there as you have been down here.
Thank
So
you
thanks so much.
Thank y'all. This community is